Hello, students of the basic and advanced classes. Today we are going to talk about past events that are hard to look back on. This reminds me of Nvidia today, which makes me think of the semiconductor giants of 1997. So let's take a look at the semiconductor giants of 1997 and Nvidia in 2024. Today's Nvidia, you see, after this angle came up, it reported a bright day. However, the transaction amount did not set a record, but the trading volume set a historical record because of its 10-for-1 stock split. So, you see, back in the pre-market for Nvidia, it was around $800 to $1,000, and the market was looking at $2,000. After the stock split, it was equivalent to $200, and the entire market was looking at $200. All the retail investors, the rumors were flying everywhere, so it seemed like a must-buy market, meaning you had to buy Nvidia. So you see, the US stock market looked so good, but actually there were only two stocks. The best performing one is Nvidia. The second one is Microsoft. Yeah, there are only two stocks with very high returns, especially Nvidia. But the problem is that the returns for other stocks are mostly in the single digits. Okay, let's take a look now. This is Nvidia. I'm telling you, it feels like the entire market has no choice but to buy. So, once it opens high, it means that it's going to be a do-or-die situation. Buying it with a do-or-die attitude doesn't mean pushing it down. This is a Taiwanese phrase. That means having the determination of a daredevil, saying, I must buy it no matter what happens. That's the meaning of this Taiwanese phrase. Who cares? Just buy it. Who cares about that voice? Let's first take a look at the week of July 19th, 1997. This is UMC, United Microelectronics Corporation. I remember at that time, UMC and TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, both saw around 175. UMC saw 175 on July 19th, and then TSMC. Subsequently, on August 30th, I remember it was around that time, saw 173. I remember very clearly when UMC reached 175. That was in 1997, or the 86th year of the Republic of China calendar. At the end of 1996 and the beginning of 1997, I joined the investment advisory company as an analyst. Becoming a TV analyst, at that time, I was a rookie TV analyst. But I had 10 years of investment experience because I started trading in 1987. In 1997, the year I became an investment advisory analyst. As soon as I joined the investment advisory company, I immediately made money for the company. So, in the investment advisory industry, during those years, I never let the company lose money. So why? Why did I join this investment advisory company? Because I couldn't stand the TV analysts. Oh, at that time I had 10 years of experience, and when I looked at those analysts, it was really nonsense. So I was very confident and thought, if I become an analyst, I can do better than you guys no matter what. So I became an analyst. At the beginning of the year, there was a period when the semiconductor giants were essential in the investment advisory company. Among all the analysts, if you didn't have the semiconductor giants, you were considered low. You had to have the semiconductor giants so that when you went on TV, you could call out, Jules, the semiconductor giant stream increased by how much? Increased by how much? It was like that at the time. And at that time, on that day when it hit 175, oh, no, it was just that day. Okay, my investment advisory company, my boss lady at the investment advisory company, at that time, this boss lady, when she saw UMC, United Microelectronics Corporation, at 175, because she kept recruiting members, and those members brought in tens of millions. It seemed like tens of millions in performance every month. It was too easy to make money. But she kept recruiting new members, and you had to have UMC and TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, in your hands because this was the main trend for shouting out prices. So, when she saw UMC at 175, this boss lady shouted. At that time, everyone used pages to call out to all members to buy, and she even shouted, I will always remember that phrase, just don't care about it, just buy it. Don't care about it. Do you understand what that means? All right then. Sorry, TSMC right here. So what did we see? TSMC finally made a false breakout. When it made a false breakout, hey, among all the TV analysts and investment advisory analysts in 1997, no one went short. Only I went short. I remember I went short at around $150 during the false breakout. I shorted UMC and TSMC at around $150. It should be here. Around that time, I remember shorting TSMC at around $150 because it made a breakout. There was an episode when I went to short. We had special members and dedicated phone lines. I had special members, and in my first year, I did quite well because I felt that my experience was much better than those TV analysts. On TV, the phone, at that time when you picked up the phone, it connected to all the special members, presidential members, or whatever members. They were all special members. And then through that, we shorted TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. So it was around $150, right around $150. At that time, I had to lead the members in and out. But before I could leave, the boss lady, because she had a lot of TSMC, took my member's phone and said, "You can't short." Wow, at that time I was very upset. So because of this incident, I left the company. Then there was a contractual relationship with the investment advisory company because I didn't want to be tied down. I wanted to do my own thing, just like how I teach now. Why am I so happy teaching now? Because I teach according to my own way, and that's what I like to do. So at that time, there was this lawsuit. It made me unemployed for about a year, but eventually once I joined the investment advisory company, I immediately became a top analyst. My performance as an analyst was very strong. This false breakout, we used that. Okay, let's restore the original situation. At that time, you bought at $170 something, and now it's only $15 because we have to calculate the drop satisfaction. At that time, I calculated it this way. See, look. 27 years ago, I was already using this chart for the false breakout. Here is the false breakout. So where is the short point? It's here. The short point is here. Short TSMC. Calculate it and see. The distance from the head and shoulders top to the neckline is equal to the amplitude distance after it breaks the line. Is there still a breakout? Most of them will break out. Take another look. First, there's a false breakout, and then comes a head and shoulders pattern. The head and shoulders pattern has a distance from the head to the neckline that equals the distance after it breaks the line. Right. The second wave, in 1998, I calculated it again. Let's finish talking about this first. The stock dropped from 150 to 94, almost halving in value. And UMC fared even worse. UMC, from 175 down to 57.5. At that time, I had calculated that UMC would break 60. So that year, I started teaching for the first time, and I used UMC and TSMC as teaching materials. There were about 200 students in the class, so my teaching experience, well, it's been 27 years now. That was my first time teaching. And the lady boss didn't believe anyone would come because no one had ever organized such offline courses before. It was all about giving speeches, going around to give talks, and then recruiting members to do some fake stuff. They would say, "Oh, teacher, you're amazing," and a whole bunch of other things. So I never dared to leave comments for so long, and I never did those things. When I went to give speeches, including the classes you attended, I never had my own people in the audience. Never, because I was very afraid of people faking it, but that's what they did. Back then, I was giving lectures and stuff. I was teaching classes, and I remember it was about $20,000 for 4 sessions. $20,000 for 4 sessions, and around 200 people signed up. At that time, the boss's wife didn't believe anyone would come to the classes. She was like, "What are you doing? Who would come to your classes?" But in the end, people did sign up. Signed up for the class, because, you know, I don't have much charisma in person. And I don't do those unnecessary things. Back then, when it came to classes, for example, when others were recruiting members, they could easily get 40 or 50 members out of 200 people. But for me, having 10 or 20 members was already quite good. When I was teaching this course, you know, until the end, for example, when UMC broke $60, those 200. Well, later statistics showed that out of those 200, at least 150 became members, but those who joined later did well because they saw what targets were achieved. We rely on our capabilities, and that's how we conduct our classes. So, my first class was it should have been in 1997. So, you see, UMC, just like TSMC. In 1998, it dropped in 2 waves, meaning the stock price was halved twice. So you should know that's how it was back. So remember this, stock prices have cycles. They all have cycles. You see the highs and lows, often getting halved. A high of 222 can drop to 34. Long term. Hey. This recent one, what was it in 2022? 688 dropped to 370. 300. And let's not even talk about UMC. It was down for years. Only started to rise again in 2020. I was stuck for 20 years. Stuck for 20 years. Stuck for 20 years. So you need to know that industries have cycles. And now we are in a long cycle. This is a long cycle. So this time it has already reached the satisfaction point. The satisfaction point. This is what I call the monthly line's big satisfaction. The satisfaction point has been reached. Pay attention. Last time when I talked about the danger, TSMC dropped from 688 to 370. So this time you need to pay attention. Like this time, as I just mentioned. I have that feeling from 27 years ago. Suddenly it's happening again now, just like 27 years ago. Wow. Who cares? Just buy it first. Who cares? So just look at this. Nvidia. The volume has exploded, right? But we need to look at the trading value, the transaction amount, because previously it was a 10-for-1 stock split. Let me show you the transaction amount. This is the transaction amount. So the highest volume is here at 100 billion. 100 billion is 3 trillion new Taiwan dollars, and now it's close to 69.9 billion. 700 billion is more than 2 trillion new Taiwan dollars. Taiwan's trading volume today is only about 600 billion. Just one stock's trading amount is more than 2 trillion new Taiwan dollars. 170 billion US dollars. This is very scary. Okay, let's draw this out here. Since we have a case where we need to revisit the trading volume, okay, because this is what we often teach, right? The ladder, going up wave by wave. When the ladder starts to go down, its peak appears. Assuming that Nvidia is now a global benchmark, once Nvidia's peak appears, the entire artificial intelligence sector will enter a downward trajectory. Okay, so pay special attention to this. This is just my feeling after today's market close. The feeling I got from Nvidia is the same as 27 years ago. At 175, retail investors went crazy, just going for it no matter what. And now it's the same with Nvidia. Whatever. It's me. I often say it will rise to 200, but I wouldn't touch this stock. It's not that the stock is bad, it's just as I told you all. It's not that the stock is bad, it's your habit that's bad. Nvidia, back in October 2022. The bottom reversal was only around $120. And now after the stock split, it's only $121. It was equivalent to $11, then it went up to $140. Wow, it increased tenfold, from $12 to $140. So, this is what it means. This is what we call taking what others abandon, and abandoning what others take. The relative positions are like this because this is called the bottom, and this is called the top. People around the world don't dare to say this, but, well, as I said, I like to be myself. I believe this is the right time, and that's just how I see it. Of course I can be wrong. You know, I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not a god. I can be wrong. It's just me. It's tough for me. You know, my chances of being right are usually very high. But I can also be wrong. For example, with this stock, at this moment, I wouldn't buy it no matter what. Because even if it could make a huge profit later, it's not something I can earn. When you're trading, remember one habit. Only buy when it's low, don't chase when it's high. But the market is always crazy at the highs, like you see now. The trading volume is 518 million shares. 518 million shares with a trading volume of 70 billion, nearly $70 billion. All this madness, the market frenzy, is happening here, which is why it's called evil. The end of the fifth wave, the evil fifth wave. You have the beginning and the end, and this end is essentially the place where it finishes. This is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. The semiconductor giants of 1997 and Nvidia in 2024. This time, Nvidia reminds me of the events of 1997, 27 years ago. Retail investors are all the same. It's not just about 27 years, it's just that the current structure and atmosphere feel exactly the same as back then. So, we need to be aware of the risks here. All right, that's all for today. Thank you, everyone.